Of late, we've seen lots of new Chinese car brands coming into our market, and I think of all those bunch of Chinese brands, this could be the most affordable one out there. This is Jetour, the second ever SUV model, the Jetour VT9. On paper, this is supposed to be a 7-seater SUV, although it's more like a 5+2, but at just 120,000 ringgit for this top spec prime variant, this could be the cheapest and most affordable 7-seater SUV you can buy in Malaysia today. On the surface, this car looks quite promising. It's got very attractive design, very sporty bits and pieces. The interior equipment also seems to be quite nice, but once you dive deeper, things get rather intriguing. Let me explain. My name is Muklis, and this is Caricarz. As I mentioned earlier, the Jetour VT9 looks rather promising on the surface, and we're going to start with the exterior design because off the bat, it gets the typical Chinese SUV body style, but some interesting design bits are also found here. Up front, you get this sharp LED headlights, full LED by the way. You also get this rather large front grille design that looks somewhat similar to what we saw on the Chery Tiggo 8 Pro. It also comes with this unique tech grey color, which looks like something like Audi or Volkswagen or BMW comes with. And of course, this car, to add some sportiness, it also comes with several red accents on the front, on the side, and it rides on 90-inch alloy wheels. So far, so good. But in terms of sizing, this car is not really a proper D. It's more like C plus to D7 SUV. Spanning about 4.7 meters, it's actually more or less similar in footprint compared to the Chery Tiggo 8 Pro, which of course, technically, it's distant cousin. Right, same goes to the rear part of the VT9 where you get your typical Chinese SUV design base, including full width LED taillights, powered tailgate, and very sporty and very excessive rear bumper accent. Mind you, these tailpipes are fake. But other than that, one jarring difference compared to the Tiggo 8 Pro is the roofline design, because although this is supposed to be a three-row SUV, but the roofline is a bit sportier compared to the boxier Tiggo 8 Pro and the Proton X90, which as a result may come with a bit of a compromise once we get inside. Alright, once you get inside the Jetour VT9, all those little cracks start to appear because, of course, at one glance it looks quite nice, it looks very sporty with the red accent and looks premium-ish, the cabin. But upon closer inspection, you start to see all the compromises taken by this car brand to cheapen out. Okay, for starters, you got this dual screen setup a la the Chery Tiggo 8 Pro, but it's not the same resolution. It's quite small, 10.25-inch each. And the infotainment here is a bit laggy, but at least you still got wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay without having to wait for an update. Okay, same goes to the seats because you can see the driver's seat, it comes with this Mercedes-style door-mounted adjustment switches. You can even come with memory function, but the power seat are only for the driver's side, where the front passenger seat is manually adjustable only, and no ventilation for both seats, by the way. Okay, let's move to the center console. Here you still got this nice dedicated panel for the climate control, which is good, but at the center here you still got 50-watt wireless charger, which is quite nice, but there are no physical buttons or dials whatsoever to change the driving modes. You only got this volume knob, and that's pretty much it. So to change the drive mode, to change the steering function, you still need to scroll through the infotainment, which is not too ideal. Same goes to the steering wheel. It's quite nice. You got all sorts of buttons, but most of the buttons you can't use because there's not much function to be used with. And same goes to the seal. You can see the speaker grid here, it looks quite premium, even says luxury, but it's just a 6-speaker sound system with no brand, and it sounds okay. Nothing to write home about, honestly. And last but not least, yes, this car comes with an ambient light system, but you only got one color and it's only present at the door, but at least you get a big sunroof. Right, life at the second row seat of the VT9 is quite decent, surprisingly, because of course once you get the seats at the back here with the 2-row setup, this car is quite spacious. Okay, the front seat has been adjusted to my driving position. As you can see, I got plenty of legroom and quite ample headroom as well. Okay, another good thing is that of course the back seat is reclinable, but as long as you don't have any person sitting at the back at the race, you can also slide it front or rear depending on who's sitting on the back, because let's be honest, the third row space is not suitable for adults. Definitely not long distance travel friendly, but for short distance travel, or if you've got kids to put at the back, then I think that should be okay. But at least up here you get amenities including 2 USB charging ports, 2 aircon vents, but no dedicated AC vents whatsoever for the third row. That's a bit of a bummer, but understandable for this size of an SUV. But at least you got almost flat floor, so 3% at the second row seat is quite possible. All right, remember when I talk about the rear roofline design of the VT9 has a bit of compromise? Well, the compromise is here because as a result of those supposed sporty roofline design, boot space for the VT9 is very limited if you've got all the seats up, because with the third row seats up, you only get 89 liters of space, not 189, just 89 liters, which is enough for maybe 1, 2, 3 backpacks or some sort. But of course, once you fold down the third row seat, you get just under 500 liters, about 400 plus liters of space, which is typical of any other C segment SUVs out there. But if you really need more space, you can just fold down all the seats, allowing you more than 1,600 liters of space in case you want to move in out or something. But of course, with sporty design comes practicality compromisation, and not to forget, this car does come with a spare wheel, but it's mounted under the rear bumper here, just like a 4x4 SUV. But perhaps the biggest compromise for the VT9 here lies under the hood, because the supposed C2D7 SUV is powered by a 1.5-litre 4-cylinder turbocharged petrol engine developed by Acteco, the same engine you can find in a Cherry or Moda 5, a B segment SUV. By itself, it puts out about 154 horsepower and 230 newtons of torque, which sounds quite okay if it's a B segment SUV, but not so when you're talking about this size of an SUV. But good thing, unlike the pre-facelift or Moda 5, this engine inside the VT9 is mated to a 6-speed DCT automatic gearbox, which again sounds promising on the surface until you drive the car. Alright, so now we're behind the wheel of the Jetour VT9, and immediately you'll notice that this car does feel a bit sluggish, because we talked already about how the engine power does not really match with its rather large size. But let me tell you, honestly, I don't think the power is a problem. I think the problem, ironically, actually comes from the DCT gearbox, because you often find this car ghost shifting, doesn't know when to shift, especially during hill climbs, or even when you want to get out of the parking spot or something, which can get quite annoying. And as a result, you really need to rev up the engine, and you also get occasional wheel spin, especially when you're exiting the toll gate or something. So yeah, it's rough on the edges, let's put it that way. But once you hit cruising speed above 60, 70, then it just drives quite fine, smooth, okay, not too bad, dare I say. But one thing that this car really kind of lack is actually in terms of the comfort and the NVH level, because you'll get noticeable wind noises. Wind noises is quite okay, but the worst actually is the tire noise, because it uses this um, lesser known Chinese tire brand, and as a result also maybe the insulation of this car is not as good as other more premium Chinese SUVs out there. So as a result, the NVH level is not on par with other Chinese SUVs we've tested before. Okay, in terms of handling, again, you cannot expect great things out of this car, because at the end of the day, it's an affordable SUV with space and everything. Let's put it this way, you don't buy this car to drive it, if you know what I mean. Because yes, it can get you from point A to point B, you and your family, in a relatively safe and comfortable manner, but don't expect it to drive well like a sport SUV like a Mazda or something. But that said, I think for most Malaysians, this powertrain setup and this engine combo is more than enough. The problem is that our market is so saturated with more powerful SUVs, especially for China, that we're basically spoiled. Because 150 horsepower in this size of a car is more than enough if you go like 7-8 years back. But now you get a Chinese SUV with this amount of power, with this amount of price. Suddenly, 154 horsepower in this size of a car became irrelevant. So it's a bit of a paradox, if you know what I mean. But other than that, in terms of safety, all right, this car, again, it does compromise a bit of safety, because you do get some basic ADAS function like blind spot detection, lane keeping assist and whatnot. But ironically, it does miss some key others, including you don't have adaptive cruise control. You only got a standard cruise control, and you don't even have autonomous emergency braking, which I think is one of the most, if not the most important others function you need to have in a car. But other than that, you still get 360-degree camera view system, TPMS, and even a 360 camera view, and even a rear cross traffic alert, which is helpful if you want to reverse this car park. But overall, like I said, what as long as you had your expectation right, it's an okay car. That's about it. All right, after dissecting figuratively the Jetour VT9 here for the past couple of days, I can say that, I mean, it's hard to say because I couldn't say outright this is not really a bad car, if you know what I mean. But you have to remember, at the end of the day, this is the most affordable 7-seater SUV you can buy in Malaysia today. At just 123,000 ringgit, you'll get plenty of car out of the Jetour VT9 here. I mean, you got 7 seats, boot space can be quite large once you fold down the back seat. Amenities are alright, but not as premium as those other Chinese brands you see out there. But it's okay. It's a good enough car for a lot of people out there. But the problem is that once you buy this car, you need to remember that there are many other nicer premium Chinese SUV out there. I mean, of course, it's a bit more expensive compared to the VT9, but they arguably offer a much more comprehensive package for those who are looking to try out the Chinese SUV experience, if you know what I mean. But then again, the VT9 also comes with a very comprehensive warranty packages, including 7 years warranty for the vehicle itself, a separate 10-year or 1 million kilometer mileage for the engine, and of course you also get 5 times free service interval, all provided for free by Jetour Malaysia. So all in all, could this be a good starter SUV if you want to venture into the Chinese car brand? It might be, but you have to remember that this might be a more appropriate option for those who want a 7-seater car but don't want to delve into the typical compact MPV market space. But at the same time, yes, it's good enough for those kind of people, but you have to remember there's always a bigger fish in the sea out there.